Deep beneath the ancient Kiev Pechersk Lavra monastery in Ukraine lies a secret that has puzzled historians for centuries. In the dark, narrow tunnels carved into soft sandstone over 1,000 years ago, rests a body labeled simply as Monk Ilya from the city of Murom. For generations, pilgrims have visited these sacred caves, believing they were paying respects to the legendary warrior Ilya Muromets, the greatest hero of Russian epic poems. But academic science dismissed this as religious folklore, nothing more than wishful thinking by devoted monks trying to connect their monastery to a fictional character. That dismissal held firm until 1988, when a team of Soviet scientists descended into those caves with modern equipment and made discoveries that would shake the foundations of everything we thought we knew about myth and reality. Picture this scene with me. A cramped underground passage lit only by dim electric bulbs, the air thick with centuries of accumulated silence. Forensic scientists in white coats carefully opening an ancient coffin, revealing a dried, mummified body that has remained untouched for over 800 years. What they were about to discover would transform an epic poem into a medical case study and rewrite the boundary between legend and historical fact. The epic tales describe Ilya Muromets as a peasant boy from the village of Karacharovo, near Murom, who was born unable to walk. For 30 years and 3 years, he sat on the family stove, paralyzed and helpless, while enemies ravaged Russian lands. Then one day, 3 wandering pilgrims entered his home and commanded him to rise. Miraculously, his legs responded, and after drinking water they gave him, he felt tremendous strength flow through his body. He became a mighty warrior, defender of Kiev and slayer of countless enemies. It all sounded like pure fantasy until the scientists looked at the spine. Pay attention to this incredible discovery. When the X-ray machine revealed the truth hidden in the vertebrae, the experts froze in astonishment. The bones showed severe deformities, with some joints practically fused together. The medical diagnosis was clear. This man suffered from a chronic spinal condition called spondylitis, though some sources suggest tubercular bone disease or childhood polio. Whatever the exact name, the result was identical. This person genuinely could not walk during his youth and likely lived for years in terrible, unending pain, completely paralyzed from the waist down. The epic formula of being bedridden suddenly acquired a completely literal meaning. This wasn't poetic exaggeration. This was medical reality documented in calcium and bone tissue. But here's what will blow your mind. If he was paralyzed, how could he later rise, fight, and accomplish the impossible? The answer came when experts studied not just the spine, but the entire skeleton. The bones of Ilya were incredibly massive, with enormous bumps observed at muscle attachment sites. These tubercles only form in people with huge muscle mass. The arms, shoulder girdle, and chest. Everything indicated this man possessed strength similar to that of a modern bodybuilder. The only logical explanation was that, confined to the stove, Ilya never gave up on his fate and spent years training everything he could: his arms, torso, and shoulders. Decades of constant exercise transformed his upper body into a powerful weapon. When the disease, for unknown reasons, went into remission, perhaps triggered by the intervention of wandering healers capable of making a sharp manual adjustment, Ilya managed to stand up not as an ordinary peasant, but as a man who had accumulated strength over years of immobility. Here's something that will absolutely amaze you. The commission couldn't explain it as a miracle, but they recorded the fact that at some point the disease weakened so much that paralysis stopped restricting his body, and his awakened muscles made him the warrior the epics described as invincible. This incredible physical strength, hidden behind dry medical terminology, began to confirm that the legend about healing reflected not imagination, but a real turning point in the fate of a man whose bones scientists held before them. However, the most striking thing turned out to be the marks that remained on the bones, transforming the research into a genuine forensic investigation, as if, experts were examining the remains of a warrior who died on the battlefield just a few years ago. Multiple rib fractures were discovered, almost all of which had healed during life, speaking volumes that the person repeatedly received powerful blows from blunt weapons and survived each time. The right clavicle was also broken and healed, which is a typical injury for knights or swordsmen taking a strong side impact. On the arm and chest bones, researchers noted thin but distinctive marks, glancing blows from cold weapons like swords, sabers, and spears. These traces couldn't have been faked on a dried body centuries later because, well, bone structure changes immediately after injury, and forensic scientists could easily determine the damage occurred during life. Ancient seekers and treasure hunters. We're about to uncover treasures that have been hidden for thousands of years. This means Ilya wasn't just able to walk, he was a professional warrior who spent years in battle, enduring dozens of strikes. He truly was a human shield, the Bogatyr hero as epic tradition remembered him, and every bone tissue confirmed what was considered fairy tale exaggeration. Meanwhile, the old Soviet report from 1963, which claimed the wounds were monastic forgery, finally collapsed under the weight of facts. There's a controversial theory that suggests the epic villains, Nightingale the robber and other monsters Ilya fought, might have been based on real enemies. We must clarify that this interpretation is debated among scholars. Most historians believe that under the images of robbers, dirty giants, and whistlers were hidden real Polovtsian warriors and steppe leaders, and the battles described in epics could be reflections of genuine skirmishes and campaigns. Let's review the available evidence and let you judge for yourself what seems most plausible. But even brutal strength and a hardened body couldn't protect him in the end. The day of death became key to understanding the entire story, and honestly, led researchers to the most terrible conclusion. Ilya Muromets was killed, dying in battle defending his shelter when the monastery was attacked. The cause of death was determined when experts discovered two particularly deep, penetrating wounds, one on the chest in the heart area and another in the left palm. These wounds at first seemed unrelated, but forensic experts reconstructed the strike trajectory and realized it was the same attack that passed through the hand. Ilya, seeing the deadly blow, instinctively threw out his left palm, trying to deflect or block the spear that swooped down on him. But the strike force was so great that the tip pierced the brush, passed through dense tissue, and entered the chest cavity, striking the heart. Based on bone dating and historical context, the time of death was determined to be approximately 1204, the year when Prince Rurik Rostislavich captured Kiev with Polovtsian forces. Reports indicate that the Polovtsians, after breaking into the city, plundered monasteries and very likely reached Kiev Pechersk Lavra. By this time, Ilya had already taken monastic vows and lived as a simple monk, but when enemies burst into his cell, he met them not as a helpless old man, but as someone who had lived a warrior's life. The legend about fighting attackers with a shoe no longer seems like a comical detail. On the contrary, it becomes a tragic touch to the final battle. Unarmed, he grabbed whatever was at hand and entered combat, but the number of attackers and their experience did their work. Which ancient civilization do you think had the most accurate historical records, and why? What archaeological discovery would you like to see in the future regarding legendary heroes? How do you compare Russian epics with Greek myths? What do you think about this new theory we've just explored, connecting folklore to forensic science? These are questions we want you to ponder, and share your thoughts with our community of fellow explorers in the comments below. The longer experts studied the remains, the clearer it became that the legend of Ilya Muromets wasn't just a collection of fantasies, but an unusually accurate description of a man's life, his disease, recovery, and death, whose fate remained standing for 8 centuries. The Commission's work in 1988 overturned old research and showed that the epic about Ilya Muromets accurately and, honestly, amazingly reflects medical truth. The spondylitis indicated by bones explains his prolonged paralysis, while powerful tubercles on the hand bones confirm he trained his upper body for years, lying on the stove. Those wandering pilgrims who corrected him in epics could have been folk healers capable of making sharp manual impact, causing temporary improvement. We often hear amazing stories about ancient curses and supernatural powers. As truth seekers, we must separate popular myths from historical facts. What actually happened was more exciting than any myth. because the real story reveals not divine intervention, but human determination, an indomitable will to overcome physical limitations through years of training, and an unexpected medical remission that transformed a paralyzed peasant into a legendary warrior whose name echoed through centuries. Before we conclude today's incredible journey, make sure you've subscribed to Treasures of History and activated the notification bell so you never miss our archaeological adventures. Share this video with fellow history lovers who need to know about these amazing discoveries. Leave your theories and questions in the comments, because your insights might unlock the next great mystery. If this legendary Russian hero was real, how many other epic characters from world folklore might also be based on actual people waiting to be discovered? Join us next time as we continue our quest to uncover the treasures that time forgot and the secrets that changed the world forever. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning,